4 years ago at this time, I was coming out of incarceration for my work, um, which uh, is a long story, but essentially, at the end of 2020, I photographed a roof in Cincinnati, Ohio, the tallest building in Cincinnati, Ohio. A couple weeks later, police put out a warrant for my arrest, and they used my military background. They honestly they fabricated a story about me being armed and dangerous, and they hunted me across the country with the help of state and national authorities, and they shut down Interstate I-40 while I was on my way to Las Vegas to arrest me. Um, I wouldn't be told what I was charged with until a couple weeks later. It was, they were overcharging me with felony burglary for photographing the tallest building in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, I would spend 2 months locked up with no bond. Then I'd go to Ohio. Would be where I should have gotten bond, but they had taken all my footage and stuff they arrested me with, and the detective went to um, other states with the same narrative that I was, dangerous veteran, possibly could be harming people. And mind you, this is after I've been honorably retired and I have no criminal record. And he was trying to get them to charge me anywhere where I had GoPro footage of me climbing, which was all over the states. And this is just me climbing bridges or climbing onto rooftops and taking photos. So he succeeded in getting me charged in Michigan for the Mackinac Bridge. Um, and so then I couldn't get out in Ohio because I had a holder in Michigan. Even when I won that case while I was incarcerated, they called an emergency bond hearing where they argued, given my background in special operations, my SEER school training, that I'd be too dangerous to let out. They raised my bond to $400,000, and I couldn't get out for another 2 months. We had to fight to get the bond lowered. There was another case added in Louisiana for, a building, like an abandoned building I photographed in near New Orleans. And the judge agreed to lower the bond and let me out on an ankle monitor if I would drive down to Louisiana and turn myself in there. I did that. On the way back, the same detective told Kentucky State Police that I escaped from jail. They intercepted me in the middle of the highway. Mind you, I'm following the judge's orders. I went down, I turned myself in. I'm on my way back to Cincinnati. I have an ankle monitor on. They used the ankle monitor to track me as soon as I crossed the border into Kentucky. State police were stationed every couple of miles waiting for me. They intercepted me. Um, the first arrest in Arizona, there was probably 20 officers, surrounding the car with assault rifles. And I mean, it was crazy. This time, one of them pulls out a taser. The other one is screaming at me. I have no idea what's going on. It was for a misdemeanor trespass charge that he managed to get. He hurried. He didn't even have the warrant signed yet. It was for the Roebling Bridge that goes into Cincinnati. Um, and so they confiscated my card, confiscated what was left of my clothes, and my dad came and got me and brought me home to Cincinnati. A month and a half later, I had climbed a skyscraper in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, One Liberty Tower, and photographed it, like in the past, and he had footage of that, and somehow he got them to charge me with criminal conspiracy and felony burglary and some other high level felony, and it all ended up getting dropped. But it was the fact that like I was getting overcharged with what looked like horrible crimes. And so at this point there was 5 different states, including Michigan. There was Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Louisiana, and Kentucky. There was 5 different state cases going on at once. at the hands of one detective who went to all these different jurisdictions and tried to get me charged for my climbing footage. And so they used that Pennsylvania warrant to, break into my dad's apartment, arrest me at gunpoint while I was unarmed. I was still on the ankle monitor. I couldn't go anywhere. Hauled me off to jail on a Friday, so I couldn't get bail till Monday. We get me a lawyer in Pennsylvania. And so the day after I had gotten out in April, um, Dave Phillips from the New York Times sat down to write about the story because it just seemed to be too crazy to be true. And 2 months later, right after that final arrest in May, the story came out June 6th of 2021 and had nationwide coverage. It was one of the biggest stories of the year for the New York Times, and it might have saved my life because I was getting railroaded legally, and the court of public opinion hadn't even entered. And then I was able to raise some money. Some friends here in New York got me an additional lawyer in Cincinnati to help my lawyer because they had 3 prosecutors and this detective on the case that were kind of ganging up on my lawyer. And we won in every single state. Like we won outright in every state except for Ohio. Ohio, I had to take a plea deal where I agreed to do a probation-based program for 2 years. I completed it in 1 year without having any incidents, and all the charges were dropped and dismissed. And there was over 30 years of prison time on the line in just Ohio alone, but there was, probably another 20 years with the other states combined. So it was like 50 years total. And I I I I won, and I kept making my art even while I was out on probation. Even as soon as they took the ankle monitor off me, I went back to making work. So which didn't make my lawyers happy, but like you can't think logically all the time as an artist. You kind of have to be able to see things with the eyes of your spirit, and my spirit was telling me that if I gave up then, I was giving up my voice at the time where I needed my voice the most. And so I just continue making work for my sanity, and because I had to pay my lawyers some sort of way. And I started selling my work, and that was the first time that I started getting paid, you know um, like real money for my work, and was able to pay them all.